Hey there, so today we have another review. This is a beer from North Coast. This is barrel-aged Old Rasputin, so this is actually pretty crazy. I was actually doing like some thinking. I mean, I'm brainstorming for a series that I'm going to do for the channel. But anyway, like a multi-part like video. But anyway, this beer I've actually never had. I want to guess I probably have like 7,500 beers in my life. Like, that's a lot of beers. This one specifically, I believe I've never had. I've definitely had Old Rasputin before, which I have a love-hate relationship because early on I didn't really like it. I actually did blind battle beers and it came in third place. But then more recently, I actually had it just in January recently, and I've had it a couple times. I reviewed it for reviews since I've moved down to Florida and actually come to really appreciate that beer. But this beer I just never got into. Part of it is that this beer always came in 500 ml bottles, and it was dumb expensive. It was like 500 ml bottles for like $25. Even with when I worked at retail and had my discount, I never bought it. No one ever really brought it to a bottle share for some reason, and I just never purchased one myself. So crazy enough, having tried so many beers, I've actually never had this beer, which is absolutely crazy. So what is this? This is bourbon barrel aged Old Rasputin. So I believe this is the newest vintage, and the reason why I bought this is actually it's much cheaper now. It comes in 4-packs. I believe this is the last one. Well, this is XX5, so it's a 25th vintage of this beer. The last one, 24, I believe, also comes in small bottles, and this is actually much more reasonably priced now. I think the 4-pack is like $19. So for the single, blah blah blah, they charge you more for a single. I paid like $6 or $7, I think. All right, yeah, that makes sense, something like that. So let's dig into this guy. I'm very excited. You guys know I'm a big fan of barrel-aged imperial stouts. Bourbon County is one of the kings for me. So yeah, it comes in at 11.2, so not a huge guy. So it doesn't actually pour out that dark. I mean, as you pour, you can sort of see a little bit of a light coming through. But I mean, it's obviously a black beer. I mean, like even on the bottom of the edge, you can sort of maybe see a little bit. But it's I mean, it's obviously a black beer, but it's not completely opaque. Analogies would be like 1050 Bourbon County. Those things are so dark. I mean, but this is obviously just still a black beer. But I can actually see a little bit on the edge, like on that bottom of the glass. You can see a little bit of light coming through. The head is going to be a nice kind of medium tan. Yeah, very good head on that actually, huh? And using a nice bourbon barrel aged, or like this is pretty much the Bourbon County glass. I think the Bourbon County glass with no label comes in the Spiegelau kind of glass set. So yeah, smells familiar. This is not the most integrated barrel aged imperial stout. It has lots of wood character, char, woody bourbon. Char from the barrel, but also this kind of like dark chocolate, obviously, milk chocolate coming through as well. Some espresso. But yeah, it reminds me a little bit of it being disjointed. Sort of reminds me of like, again, the analogy I always call is like, if Bourbon County was one spectrum of like integration of barrel and beer and just everything melded in together to really like make a beautiful product. The other example would be like literally just putting bourbon into an imperial stout, which I've actually done on the channel before. I guess I'll probably, if I remember, I'll link it. If not, you can look it up. It's going to be like Darwin's Beer Reviews, Eagle Rare Bourbon Imperial Stout. And I actually believe I used Old Rasputin. So I actually used Old Rasputin with Eagle Rare. Back when Eagle Rare was available. That's back when that was not a hard to find bourbon. I found it on the shelf for like $30, $40, but now it's like, non-existent. A little bit of dark fruit, a little bit of grape character, dark grape, red grape, red wine grape, yeah. A little bit of marshmallow character to it, but yeah, fiery char, bourbon, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, okay, yeah. Up front, marshmallow, a little bit of vanilla, pops with the bourbon up front as well. Woody tannin, lingering wood character, a little bit of spice in there as well, but just lingers on like char, dark chocolate. Yeah, the beer's part of how bourbon barrel aging by the way works is that a lot of times it's recommended that you actually brew a beer specifically for the barrel. Bourbon County, Goose Island does that for Bourbon County. Top and Goliath, one of the big hyped bourbon barrel aged producers. I believe even like Side Project. Like there's beers meant for barrels, and there's beers meant, and there's imperial stouts meant for drinking. Imperial, this right here, I think is just a good example of that. Old Rasputin is meant to be enjoyed as an imperial stout and not a bourbon barrel aged. The beer is not that big, right? The Old Rasputin already, I just checked out my review. I complained about it for, lacking a little bit of body and sweetness and richness that I like in imperial stouts. So you already have that, like, quote unquote skinnier of a beer, a little bit thinner for imperial stout, and then throwing barrel on top of it with the booze and the char and the wood tannin and all these flavor characteristics that sort of detract from sweetness and mouthfeel, right? So you're just pulling that away from beer that's a little dry, in my opinion, for imperial stout. So what you have here is just like it's gotten more boozy. You get a little bit of like vanilla and desserty character in there, and it's integrated into the beer pretty well. But in general, it doesn't make the beer better. I would argue that regular Old Rasputin is just a better beer, and then there's just better bourbon barrel aged stout options out there. So I'm glad I got to try this. I'm for sure glad I didn't have to pay $25, $30. Again, you guys posting comments with the MSRP on that 500 ml bottle. It was a 500 ml bottle with a cork and cage. That thing was dumb expensive. So I'm glad I didn't pay that. And the beer's good. It's just, again, I've had a few of these before, right? It just tastes a little bit thin. Doesn't add to the base beer. What else do I have to say about it? Oh, yeah. So the beer is just like a nice, again, it has a little bit of that kind of like, here's a pretty imperial stout, and let's just throw some bourbon in it. A little bit of that character to it. But in general, the beer is dry. And it's pretty smooth for 11.2. I will say it's very smooth for a double-digit ABV beer. But it just doesn't have any, like the beer doesn't have to be pastry sweet. But in general, if I'm looking for bourbon barrel aged imperial stout, again, the king, the gold standard is going to be Bourbon County, and that has a richness, boldness, mouthfeel, luscious character to it. This is all just like, a skinny version of that. Like it's again, it's like skim milk versus like half and half, right? It's just like, I mean, obviously that analogy is a little bit intense, but I hope that makes some sense to you. Like this tastes like 1% versus whole milk. Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's complex, it's tasty, but it just doesn't have, like, if I'm looking for imperial stout, I'm looking for things that taste like the gold standard, and this doesn't have that. As for rating, it's a solid beer. Let's go with a solid 90, which might seem like a great score, but, like, I mean, we're talking about barrel-aged imperial stout. Like, if you make a world-class, I mean, that already is a hype style where the rating should be, 96, 97, 98, not 100s, right? So this is a solid 90. Oh, it's better than 95. I mean, it's for sure tasty. It just lacks richness. Like, it is a dry beer. Wow. The booze and the wood and all that is just dries out the beer. Let's go with a solid 90. Let's go solid 91. I'll go up to 91, but again, if you make a great example of this style, it definitely should be world class. I mean, you just have all the bells and whistles. You have double-digit IPA. Double-digit ABV. You have an imperial stout. You have the barrel. Like everything, should put you at like top tier, foie gras levels of like decadence, right? And it should be really good, but this just doesn't do that. So again, it's like drinking 1% milk versus whole milk. It's just that kind of analogy. Very tasty stuff. Nice complexity to it. Just doesn't do what the style can do. 91. Until next time, guys. Cheers. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you've picked this one up. Has it changed throughout the years? And also, are you now happy that it has a better price point instead of that 500 mil, insane price one? Until next time. Cheers.